In the television studio in the heart of New York, lights shone brightly on the set of Clash of Ideas, one of the most watched political talk shows in the United States. Eleanor Mitchell, a renowned political commentator and anchor of the show, known for her incisive liberal views and for sparing no one from her sharp questions, adjusted her microphone as the production team counted down to get on the air. "We're on the air in 5, 4, 3, the director quietly signaled the final two numbers. "Good evening, America." Eleanor smiled at the camera with the confidence of someone who had been running that space for more than 15 years. "Today, we have a special guest in the confrontation of ideas. He came from England and is causing a stir on American social networks with his views on immigration policies and social assistance. Please welcome Harry Kane, the man who entered. The studio was not the famous English footballer, but shared the same name. This Harry Kane was a man of approximately 35 years old, with short brown hair and a posture that indicated discomfort in the spotlight. He wore a simple navy blue suit with no tie, a choice Eleanor immediately interpreted as too casual for the occasion. "Mr. Kane, welcome to the show," she began, her cordial tone masking the trap she was about to set. His YouTube videos criticizing the American healthcare system have gained millions of views in recent weeks. Why does a Briton think he can have a say in American matters in the first place? Harry adjusted himself in his chair, clearly surprised by the immediate aggressiveness of the question. "Thank you for the invitation, Ms. Mitchell. In fact, I have dual citizenship. My mother is American from Boston, and I grew up between the two countries. I think that gives me a unique perspective on—" "A unique perspective?" Eleanor interrupted, her smile becoming sharper. "Or maybe just the typical arrogance of someone who has never had to depend on the systems he criticizes." Cameras captured Harry's growing discomfort, while behind the scenes, the show's executive producer, Vanessa Thompson, watched with interest. Something about this guest looked familiar, but she couldn't pinpoint exactly what. "We're going to come back after commercials to hear how Mr. Kane justifies his controversial views on our healthcare system," Eleanor announced, as cameras zoomed out to show the full studio before the cut. On the studio monitors, social networks were already exploding with comments. The hashtag Harry Kane humiliated began to rise in the trending topics. When the show returned from the commercial break, Eleanor decided to step up her attack. Real-time. Audience polls showed a significant spike. Viewers were tuning in to see the showdown. "Mr. Kane, in one of your videos, you stated that the American health insurance model is deeply flawed and inhumane. These are strong words coming from someone who, from what we researched, has never spent a single day working in the health area." Harry tried to keep his composure. "In fact, I base my analyses on comparative statistical data across international health systems and on interviews with professionals and patients who—" "Interviews," Eleanor laughed, looking briefly at the camera as if sharing a joke with viewers. "And who exactly did you interview? Friends in a London pub complaining about their holiday medical bills?" The studio remained in tense silence. The live audience, usually ready to react with laughter to Eleanor's taunts, seemed uncomfortable. "Mrs. Mitchell," Harry took a deep breath, "I understand that we have different views, but I believe we could have a more productive discussion if—" "Productive?" Eleanor raised her tone. "What would be productive would be for people like you, privileged and disconnected from reality, to stop presenting themselves as experts in systems they barely understand. His YouTube channel has millions of young, impressionable followers who believe in his dangerous simplifications." The cameras captured Harry's face turning red, not from anger, but from humiliation. He briefly looked off the stage, as if looking for someone from the production who could intervene. In control, Vanessa Thompson frowned. This was going too Far even by the show's aggressive standards, she began frantically reviewing research notes about the guest on her tablet. "Let's be honest, Mr. Kane," Eleanor continued mercilessly. "His British accent and his name identical to that of a famous footballer are his only real credibility. What do you really know about the difficulties faced by American families with health problems?" It was at that moment that Vanessa found the information she was looking for. His face turned pale. She immediately pressed the intercom button connected to Eleanor's electronic point. "Eleanor, stop now. We need to go to the break." Vanessa's voice sounded urgent in the presenter's ear. Confused but professional enough not to show it, Eleanor smiled for the camera. "We will return after a brief commercial break to continue this fascinating discussion." As soon as the cameras cut off, Vanessa ran to the stage with a panicked expression. "Do you have any idea who he really is?" Vanessa whispered furiously to Eleanor, away from the reach of the still open microphones. Eleanor shrugged, annoyed by the interruption. "A British YouTuber with conservative views and a famous name. It's all in the preparation notes." "No, it's not." Vanessa pushed her tablet into Eleanor's hands. "The interns made a terrible mistake in the research. This is not just any YouTuber. Harry Kane is a physician, graduated from Harvard. He worked for 10 years in emergency rooms at public hospitals in Boston before moving to London to join the NHS, the British public health system." Eleanor felt the blood run down her face as she continued reading. He won the American Medical Association's Humanitarian Award for his work in developing healthcare programs for underserved communities. "Yes," Vanessa confirmed, looking nervously at Harry, who was being attended to by a production assistant who offered him water. "And there's more. The reason his YouTube channel exploded was not conservative opinions. He began documenting the real lives of patients in the two systems to show the practical differences, with their permission. It's a serious journalistic work that was nominated for a Peabody Award this year." Eleanor felt her stomach sink. In his 15-year career, he had never made such a serious research error. "We have to fix this," she muttered. "You have to fix this," Vanessa corrected. "We're live again in 30 seconds. When the cameras rolled again, Eleanor's posture had noticeably changed. The confident smile gave way to a more restrained expression. "Welcome back to Showdown of Ideas," she began, her voice slightly less assertive. "Mr. Kane, it looks like there was a significant misunderstanding in our research team. I would like to give you the opportunity to perform properly for our viewers." Harry Kane studied Eleanor's face for a moment, considering his options. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I'm Dr. Harry Kane. I studied medicine at Harvard and worked for a decade in public hospital emergency rooms in Massachusetts before moving to London, where I've been working in the NHS for 5 years. My YouTube channel documents real patient stories in both systems, with the goal of showing how different public health approaches affect real lives." The studio was absolutely silent. On social media, the hashtag began to change rapidly, or Eleanor Pisamalai was starting to rise. "Dr. Kane," Eleanor began, swallowing her pride, "I apologize for the way I started our conversation. Evidently, his credentials and experience are substantially different from what I was told. I think this perfectly illustrates the problem I try to address in my work," Harry replied, now more confident. "We tend to make quick judgments based on incomplete information. That's exactly what happens when we discuss health systems without examining the actual experiences of patients and the professionals who work in them." The dynamic had completely changed. Eleanor, normally in control, was on the defensive. "His work specifically compares the American system with the British one. What fundamental differences have you observed?" she asked, trying to regain some journalistic credibility. "The most significant difference is not in the quality of the professionals. who are exceptional in both countries, Harry explained, leaning forward. It's in the level of stress and anxiety that patients experience. In the US, I saw people refusing ambulances even in life-threatening situations because they feared the bill. In the UK, that fear simply doesn't exist. For the first time on the show, a genuinely substantive discussion began to develop. Eleanor, regaining some of her professional composure, asked pointed questions about the downsides of the NHS, such as waiting times and budget limitations. Harry responded honestly, acknowledging the problems but contextualizing them. No system is perfect. The question is, what imperfections are we willing to accept, and who do those imperfections affect the most? Backstage, Vanessa watched the audience numbers skyrocket. Social networks were in an uproar, but the tone had changed. People were genuinely engaged in the substantive debate. What about the argument that a universal system discourages medical innovation? Asked Eleanor, now genuinely interested in the answer. It's an important question, Harry nodded, but the data do not support this argument. Medical innovation flourishes in countries with universal systems such as Germany, Japan, and Scandinavia. The question is not whether there are funds for research, but how those funds are allocated and who benefits from the resulting innovations. The debate continued, turning into something neither of them had anticipated, a genuine conversation. A week after the show, Eleanor Mitchell sat in her office, watching the storm of attention that episode had generated. Contrary to all expectations, his approval rating had risen, not fallen. The public had enjoyed seeing something rare on American television. Someone admitting a mistake and allowing a real conversation to emerge from the ashes of a planned attack. His phone rang. It was Vanessa. Did you see the numbers? That episode became the most shared clip in the history of the show, said the producer, without hiding the excitement in her voice. I did, Eleanor replied, contemplatively. And I read the comments too. People are really discussing health policy, not just reacting to the drama. And there's more, Vanessa continued. Dr. Kane called. He wants to return to the program for a special series of debates on public health. He said that rarely has he had such an effective platform to discuss these issues, even after the difficult start. Eleanor smiled, surprised by her own reaction. In other times, her vanity would never allow her to invite back someone who had seen her at a time of such professional vulnerability. Book it for next week, she decided. And Vanessa, let's invite some real patients as well. People whose lives have been affected by the systems we're discussing. That night, before finalizing the proposal for the new series of programs, Eleanor did something she hadn't done in years. She watched her own program as an ordinary viewer. He observed himself attacking Harry Kane and then retreating when he discovered who he really was. The lesson wasn't just about inadequate research. It was about how the American media had become a battlefield where substance often got lost in the spectacle, and how she herself, so proud of her incisive journalism, had become part of that problem. Meanwhile, in London, Harry Kane packed his suitcase to return to the United States. His channel had gained hundreds of thousands of new subscribers, and the stories he had documented for years were finally getting the attention they deserved. Sometimes being publicly humiliated can be the best thing that happens to you, he reflected, as he responded to an email from Eleanor about the topics of the upcoming debate. Especially when it leads to people discovering who you really are. In the following weeks, the confrontation of ideas was transformed. There were still heated debates, but now they started from a place of mutual respect and genuine curiosity. Eleanor continued to ask difficult questions, but without the goal of humiliating, with the goal of understanding. The liberal authority who humiliated Harry Kane on TV had itself been transformed by the encounter. And America, at least a small part of it that watched the show, was having a more honest and productive conversation about issues that really mattered. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Leave your comment. What marked you the most on this transformation journey? Subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of the power of empathy, truth, and redemption. Because sometimes the greatest victory is not winning, is to change.